On paper, this was the most talented team of the 90s. This was the only time that decade that a team featured 4 All-Star players: Shaq, Kobe, Eddie Jones, and Nick Van Exel. This team was deep, young, and dominant. It seemed like they would be the future of the NBA, but there was turmoil, drama, and the leader of this team demanded that they break up this core. In the end, we'll see why it takes more than talent to win. Looking back now, we can see that the Lakers were slowly forming into the dynasty they would later become. In the previous year, they were able to make the biggest free agent move of the 90s. They landed Shaquille O'Neal, the next great big man of the NBA. However, he missed 31 games that year after suffering a hyperextension injury to his left knee. Most teams would struggle if their best player missed over a third of the season, but this gave their young players their chance to shine. Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel did a great job of running the offense. Rookies Kobe Bryant and Derek Fisher were showing flashes of what they would become. They also made an important move before the trade deadline. They brought in Robert Horry from Phoenix to add versatility to this lineup. Even without operating at full strength, they won 56 games. The talent was there. They just needed a little more experience and growing pains to get to the next level. They received that and more against the Utah Jazz in the playoffs. It wasn't just that they lost in 5 games, but the way it all ended. It was Kobe shooting 4 air balls in the fourth quarter and overtime. He had heart, but no legs in him. It was this moment that was going to push him to reach another level. This team was motivated and ready to put that defeat behind them. The Lakers were able to add even more talent in the offseason. They signed sharpshooter John Barry to help spread the floor. But most importantly, they signed Rick Fox. His scoring, defense, and leadership were going to bring so much value to the Lakers. And just like that, this was easily the deepest roster in the NBA. What were the expectations for this team? According to the book, 3 Ring Circus, John Barry told writer Jeff Pearlman there were championship expectations and nothing less. I hadn't been on a team with that level of buzz. I felt like the pieces were in place. End of quote. Then there was Kobe Bryant. He was determined to make sure that he never repeated what happened in Salt Lake City. It was reported that he returned 10 pounds heavier and it was all muscle. There was no question that he was ready to go. But we can't say the same for Shaq. He injured himself in practice, which sidelined him for the season opener against the Utah Jazz. But that wasn't going to stop him from getting his revenge. He spotted Greg Ostertag in the tunnel and they exchanged a few words. It ended with Shaq slapping him across the face. But that wasn't the only beatdown they received that night. The Lakers defeated the Stockton-less Jazz by 17 points behind a strong night by Kobe. He scored a team-high 23 points. That was how their crazy season started. This was only one of 20 games that they had to play without Shaq. They proved that there wasn't a single team that was less dependent on their star player. There were a total of 6 players who averaged in double figures. During that stretch, they had a record of 13-7 and averaged 112.6 points per game. This was a playoff team even without the Diesel. When he was on the court, they were one of the favorites to win the title. A few examples of his dominance came against the New Jersey Nets when he scored 50 points on 69% shooting. Then there was a game against the Dallas Mavericks when he scored 43 points on 18 of 22 shooting while playing only 32 minutes. That's what made this team so dangerous. The opposition was forced to double team him every time he touched the ball. That opened up opportunities for his 3 other All-Star teammates. League observers noticed that he improved his court vision and passing. He was starting to add maturity to his game, which meant the rest of the league was in deep trouble. What are the teams supposed to do when he's playing at that level? And then Nick Van Exel would give you 30 points and 12 assists like he did against the Clippers. Then Eddie Jones comes along and he can give you 35 points on 82% shooting as he did to the Sacramento Kings. Then you have this guy coming off the bench. He can give you 30 points on 57% shooting as he did to the Dallas Mavericks. They could beat you in so many ways. They proved what their potential was when the Chicago Bulls came to town. This was being covered as a potential finals matchup. Let's not forget that Shaq wasn't present when they faced off earlier in the season. In this game, the Lakers overwhelmed the defending champions with their depth. Shaq, Kobe, Eddie Jones, and Rick Fox each scored over 20 points. Even without Nick Van Exel, they won the game by 25 points. This seemed like the team that would have given the Bulls the most problems. One could imagine how crazy it would have been to see Kobe and Shaq face Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in the finals. This was a real possibility for many basketball experts, especially if you look at how their season ended. They finished with 61 wins. They had the third best record in the league. They also finished first in points per game and second offensive rating. By just looking at the numbers, you would think that they were on cloud 9, but that was far from the truth. There existed many internal problems that reveal the true colors of this team. We first have all the trade rumors surrounding Eddie Jones. Would he be traded for Mitch Richmond, Glenn Rice, Detlef Schrempf? On November 25th, Scottie Pippen told the Daily Herald that he wanted to be sent to either Phoenix or the Lakers. Once that request blew up, it seemed inevitable that Eddie would be gone. Although he was playing at a high level, many believed that his and Kobe's playing styles were too similar. Then we have the fact that Kobe was done playing behind him. The book mentioned that Kobe went after Jones with a ferocity few had witnessed before during training camp. Rick Fox mentioned that he made it clear from the very beginning that he intended to push Eddie out the door and take his job. It didn't help that Kobe was quickly becoming a fan favorite. Despite coming off the bench, he was voted a starter for the All-Star game. When they played against Chicago in December, the league marketed this as Michael Jordan versus the next Michael Jordan. There was no question that Kobe was on the verge of legitimate greatness. They had to do something with Eddie Jones, and all the trade rumors surely impacted his mentality. Then there was a player's relationship with head coach Dale Harris. The front office wondered throughout the year whether the coach had lost his players. Nick made it clear that he didn't like the guy. Kobe didn't acknowledge his coach, and he was very frustrated with Dale's unwillingness to start him. Shaq also told Jeff Pearlman that the players couldn't take him, and if you don't respect a man, you're not going to give your all for him. What he said was true. You can't expect a team to go far when they have that kind of relationship with their coach. But Shaq wasn't all innocent. There were separate instances where he publicly called out Rick Fox and Eldon Campbell. It was clear that something seemed off with this team. Was their talent going to be enough to overcome the problems that they had? When the playoffs arrived, it seemed like they could. They only lost 2 games in the first 2 rounds. They looked extremely impressive against the Seattle Supersonics in the semifinals. This was a team that won 61 games, but they beat them in 5 games, and they won by an average of 16.8 points. George Karl gave the ultimate compliment to Shaq when he said this: "Shaq is the best basketball player in the NBA right now. I think he's more powerful and dominating than anyone who plays." Michael Jordan might be prettier and more athletic, but from a coaching standpoint, I think Shaq's probably the most difficult guy to play against. End of quote. For the series, O'Neal averaged 30.6 points on 63% shooting, 9.6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks per game. If he's playing like that, anything is possible. But all that hype quickly died down when they played the Utah Jazz. In the first game, they lost by 35 points. The Lakers shot 29.5% from the field. Robert Horry said it best when he said that his team had no heart, no brains, and no courage. In Game 2, the Lakers had the lead heading to the 4th quarter, but they quickly lost all momentum. They made one mistake after another, and the Jazz capitalized. In Game 3, Shaq was the only one who showed up. Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel shot a combined 8 of 32 from the field. Kobe was a bright spot, but he only played 15 minutes. They were down 3-0, and the series was over. Everyone knew it. At this point, a team simply plays for pride. But there was one player who committed one of the biggest basketball crimes. After a practice, the team huddled and put their hands in the center. Before anyone could utter a word, Nick said this: 1, 2, 3, Cancun. The gym went dead quiet. No one could believe what they heard. Shaq went directly to Jerry West's office and told him of the incident. He said, "After this all ends, Nick is done here." Nick later mentioned that this was only a joke, but this was no laughing matter, especially when he said this after the series ended. Being swept or losing 4-3, there's not much of a difference. You just lose vacation time. End of quote. It's clear where his head was, and that's on the beach in Cancun. When it was all said and done, many analysts were saying that this was one of the most shocking sweeps ever. No one was expecting this kind of beatdown. Many people were pointing to the lack of maturity and professionalism. From an X's and O's standpoint, this team had no idea how to defend the pick and roll. The Jazz killed them with their fundamentals and experience. On the other hand, the Lakers' offense was too predictable. They didn't know how to make the most of all the talent they had. They didn't know how to close out games. It's all the little things that are necessary if you want to win a title. It was obvious that this team had a long way to go. Shaq was the most vocal out of the bunch. He told reporters that if his teammates don't want to play, then get off my team. This was more than just a threat. In the following season, they got rid of both Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones. They gave up talent for players who knew how to win. Then they added the leader that they needed to get to the next level. This is a painful reminder that it takes more than talent to win in the NBA. Even with a roster full of all-stars, you can get humiliated by a quote-unquote older and slower team. Why do you think their season ended the way it did? What was the main problem with this team? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.